हेलो एवरीवन। वेलकम टू माय यूट्यूब चैनल द सोलफुल डायरी। आज के वीडियो में हम बात करेंगे रॉबर्ट फ्रॉस्ट की पोम बर्चेस के बारे में। रॉबर्ट फ्रॉस्ट के बारे में हम पहले एक वीडियो में डिस्कस कर चुके हैं जिसका लिंक डिस्क्रिप्शन में है। चलिए आज पोम को डिस्कस करते हैं। पोम को इन डेप्थ डिस्कस करने से पहले जान लेते हैं बर्चेस के कुछ की फीचर्स। बर्चेस इज वन ऑफ द मोस्ट admired and thoughtful poems by Robert Frost. The poem profoundly describes something simple, an ordinary incident, in elevated terms. From the description of an ordinary incident, it proceeds to convey profound thoughts in a simple manner. It is like most of Frost's poems, simple in form and style, but complex and deep in thought. The poem is written in blank verse, which moves rhythmically and is highly suitable for the conveyance of its deep thoughts. The poem conveys a lofty and noble message in the line, Earth is the right place for love. The line of the poem never stopped until the end and carries the voice through a series of upward and downward swings, reenacting the movement of thought. The poem turns on an episode what it means in several modes to be small boy singer of Birches, but before the poem is finished, it has become a meditation on the best way to leave earth for heaven. However, leaving the earth is not the only desire of the poet. He wants to come back to it after some time because of his love for it. He wants to escape from the trouble of the earth only to return to it to enjoy the beauty and pleasures it affords like kids. Frost seems to believe in and express the view that the poetry of earth is never dead. Thus, the poem contains deep thought and a noble message in its simple form. Moreover, the poet makes use of a number of objects and actions as symbols to convey his world view. Lines 1 to 5. When I see birches bend to left and right across the lines of straighter, darker trees, I like to think some boy's been swinging them, but swinging doesn't bend them down to stay, as ice storms do. Often you must have seen them. The poet has himself been a swinger of birches, and as such, he has been able to watch their behavior, including bending. Now, when he sees birches bending to the left and the right, beyond the rows of erectly standing trees, he tends to imagine that they have been bent by some boy swinging on them. But then he thinks that birches cannot be bent down so permanently by the swinging of boys as they can be by ice storms. Lines 6 to 9. Looted with ice, a sunny winter morning after a rain, they click upon themselves as the breeze rises and turn many colored as the stir cracks and creases their enamel. The poet, who is a speaker in this poem, says to the readers or listeners that the latter might have seen birches loaded with ice on a sunny winter morning after it has stopped raining. When the wind blows, they produce a sound like that of iron by clicking against themselves and become many colored because of the cracks in their enamel caused by their movement in the wind. Lines 10 to 13. Soon the sun's warmth makes them shed crystal shells, shattering and avalanching on the snow crust. Such heaps of broken glass to sweep away. You would think the inner dome of heaven had fallen. The warmth of the sun makes the fragrant snow that look like crystal shells fall down from the birches like such big heaps of broken glass that one thinks that the inner dome of the heaven has been broken into pieces and has fallen down in the shape of shattered fragments of its broken glass. Lines 14 to 20. They are dragged to the withered bracken by the load, and they seem not to break, though once they are bowed so low for long, they never right themselves. You may see their trunks arcing in the woods, years afterwards, trailing their leaves on the ground. like girls on hands and knees that throw their hair before them over their heads to dry in the sun. The birches are bowed down to the dry fern growing on the earth because of a loose snow on them, but they are not broken. However, they are bowed down so much for such a long time that they cannot straighten themselves. Their trunks lie arched or bent down in the woods even several years later and keep their leaves trailing on the ground, like the girls who sit on their hands and knees, spreading their hair over their heads to dry in the sun. Went to 27, but I was going to say when truth broken, with all her matter of fact about the storm. I should prefer to have some boy bend them as he went out and then to fetch the cows. Some boy too far from town to learn baseball, whose only play was was what he found himself, summer or winter, and could play alone. While the poet was describing the phenomenon of ice storm bending the birches, he thought that he would prefer to think that some boy who was looking after his cows and who had left too far away from the town to learn and play urban games like baseball had found game swinging birches which he could play all alone. 28 to 32. One by one, he subdued his father's trees by riding them down over and over again until he took the stiffness out of them, and not one but hung limp, not one was left for him to conquer. The boy played the only game he had found, that is swinging birches. He had climbed all the birches owned by his father and bent them by swinging up and down till they all become limp, and none of them could stand erect. All their stiffness was gone, and not a single tree was left unconquered and unbent by the boy. 32 to 41. He learned all there was to learn about not launching out too soon and so not carrying the tree away clear to the ground. He always kept his voice to the top branches, climbing carefully with the same pains he used to fill a cup, up to the brim and even above the brim. Then he flung outward feet first with a swish, kicking his way down through the air to the ground. So was I once myself a swinger of birches. The boy learned not to swoop down from the point high up in the air towards the earth swiftly and thus causing the tree to fall down on the ground. He used to climb its top branches in a poised manner or carefully, balancing himself with the same pain and care that one bestows while filling cup to the brim or even above the brim. Then he used to filing himself forward with his feet stretched forward and pass gently through the air to touch the ground. 42 to 49. And so I dream of going back to be. It's when I'm weary of considerations and life is too much like a pathless wood where your face burns and tickles with the cobwebs broken across it and one eye is weeping from a twigs having lashed across it open. I would like to get away from earth a while and then come back to it and begin over. Poet himself was a swinger of birches in his boyhood, and now he dreams of becoming birch swinger once again. When he's troubled by the worries of the earth, and when he's tired of considerations, when life becomes unbearably painful for to him, when some twig pinches his eye and the cobwebs burn and tickle his face, he likes to find an escape from this earth for some time and then to come back to it again and begin his life afresh. 50 to 59. May no fate willfully misunderstand me and half grant what I wish and snatch me away. Not to return. Earth's the right place for love. I don't know where it's likely to go better. I would like to go by climbing a birch tree and climbed black branches up a snow white trunk toward heaven till the tree could bear no more, but dipped its top and set me down again. That would be good. Both going and coming back, one could do worse than be a swinger of birches. The poet wishes that nobody, including his fate, should misunderstand his desire to escape from this earth or think that he wants to get away from here, never to return. In his opinion, the earth is the right place for love, and he does not know of a better place in this respect. He would like to go towards heaven by swinging upon a birch tree and brings him down and set him on the earth again. It would be, he believes, good for him both to go from and come back to the earth as one does while swinging. If a man does not like to be a swinger of birches and live in the two worlds of fact and fancy, he may be a worse man than a swinger of birches. Literary devices as one insists the repetition of vowel sounds in the same line. For example, the sound of A in shattering and avalanching on the snow crust. Consonants is the repetition of consonant sounds in the same line, such as the sound of L. And soon the sun's warmth makes them shed crystal shells. Sonification is to give human like qualities to inanimate objects. For example, in line 16, so low for long, they never right themselves. As if the trees are human and can correct their postures, but not they are not willing to do that. Anaphora. It refers to the repetition of a word or expression in the first part of some verses. For example, as the in the first stanza of the poem is repeated to emphasize the point. Alliteration is the repetition of consonant sounds in the same line in quick succession. For example, the sound if C in as the stir cracks increases their enamel, and the sound of B in when I see birches bend to left and right. Simile is used to compare something with something else to make the meaning clear to the readers years afterwards, trailing their lives on the ground like girls on hands and knees that throw their hair. Imagery is used to make reader perceive things involving their five senses. For example, when I see birches bend to left and right to the top branches climbing carefully and climb black branches up a snow white trunk. Enchantment it is defined as a thought or clause that does not come to an end at a line break. Instead, it moves over to the next line. For example, and life is too much like a pathless wood where your face burns and tickles with the cobwebs broken across it, and one eye is weeping from a twigs having lashed across it open. Hyperbole is a device used to exaggerate a statement for the sake of emphasis. For example, soon the sun's warmth makes them shed crystal shells, shattering and avalanching on the snow crust. Themes. The conflict between fantasy and reality. In the speaker's stream of consciousness, two voices diverge and chatter along in a parallel tension. The first voice is that of fantasy. It longs for the woodland birches to stand as symbols of personal meaning. It assumes the birches trees were bent by a boy at play, a boy, much like the speaker once was, glimpsing heaven in the exhilarating heights of the birches. The second voice is that of reality. It understands the truth that the birches were bent by a storm and that any illusions otherwise are an indulgence. This voice truth reaches much farther, however, for it knows that the glimpse of heaven high in the birches is merely the power of memory. The speaker's memories of childhood and create a deeper layer of events and meanings in the narrative of the poem. Confronting the arcing birches, the speaker is immediately reminded of his own childhood days spent swinging upon and bending birches trees. Because those memories are so laced with blood, the speaker, now laden with the responsibilities and difficulties of adult life, sees in his past the image of heaven. Looking at the birch trees afresh, he wonders whether such heaven remains available to him. The longing for heaven and the pull of earth. The centrality, thematic duality of the poem is that of heaven and earth. It is a tension which arises from the speaker's boyhood memories of birching swinging moments which were heavenly in their ascendant lightning and free. It is such a state of Edenic innocence. Uh, innocence, Edenic speaker longs for now as he strides the woods as an adult, frightened with the cares and sorrows of maturity. Gravity is the proper metaphorical force here, for the speaker feels weighed down toward the earth. The speaker strives to locate a resolution between his desire for heaven and his fate on earth. थैंक यू। आई होप आज का वीडियो आपको पसंद है। कैसे लगे हमें कमेंट करके ज़रूर बताएं, और आप आगे आने वाली वीडियोस किस टॉपिक पर देखना चाहते हो वो भी हमें कमेंट करके बताएं। और अगर वीडियो अच्छी लगे तो लाइक शेयर एंड सब्सक्राइब टू माय चैनल। मिलते हैं कल एक और इन्फॉर्मेटिव वीडियो के साथ शाम 4 बजे। थैंक यू।